You're exhausted, not the kind of exhausted that sleep fixes, the kind that sits behind your eyes even after 8 hours of rest, the kind that lives in your jaw, your shoulders, your chest. You wake up already behind, already calculating, already running through the list of things you need to do, fix, handle, figure out before the day even has a chance to breathe. And the worst part, you don't even know what you're running toward anymore. You just know you can't stop. Because stopping feels dangerous. Stopping feels like falling behind. Stopping feels like everyone else will keep moving and you'll be left standing there with nothing to show for all the effort you've poured into a life that still doesn't feel like enough. So you push harder, you optimize, you plan, you journal, you set goals on top of goals. You listen to the podcast, read the book, build the routine, track the habits. You do everything right. And still, something's off. Still, there's this quiet hum underneath all of it, whispering the thing you're afraid to say out loud. What if all this effort is the problem? Not part of the problem, the actual problem. Let me explain what I mean by that. Because it sounds wrong. It sounds like I'm telling you to be lazy, to stop caring, to sit on the couch and hope the universe delivers your dream life in a gift bag. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is something harder to hear. You have been trying so hard for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to let something work without your hands all over it. You've been gripping life so tightly that your knuckles are white and you can't even feel what you're holding anymore. And somewhere along the way, the trying stopped being about moving forward and started being about fear. Fear that if you ease up, even for a second, everything you've built will collapse. But look at what all that trying has actually given you. Not the results, the experience of it. The tightness in your chest that never fully goes away. The inability to enjoy something without immediately thinking about what comes next. The guilt you feel when you rest, like your body is betraying you by needing a break. That's not ambition. That's not discipline. That's a nervous system that's been locked in survival mode for so long it doesn't know there's another option. And the cruel irony is that the harder you try, the further away the thing you want seems to get. You've felt this. You've had seasons where you did everything right, woke up early, stayed disciplined, followed the plan, and nothing moved. And then you've had moments where you let go, even accidentally, and something clicked. A conversation opened a door. An idea landed out of nowhere. An opportunity showed up that you couldn't have engineered if you tried. That wasn't luck. That was what happens when you finally get out of your own way. Here's what most people don't understand about effort. There are two kinds, and they feel completely different in your body, even though they look the same from the outside. The first kind comes from alignment. It's the effort that doesn't drain you. The kind where you lose track of time, where the work feels like breathing, not because it's easy, but because it's yours. You're not pushing a boulder uphill. You're walking a path that was already waiting for you. That kind of effort fills you up even when it's hard. The second kind comes from fear. It's the effort of proving, of performing, of forcing something to work because you're terrified of what it means if it doesn't. This kind of effort is loud. It's busy. It looks impressive on the outside, but on the inside, it's hollow. You finish the task and feel nothing. You hit the goal and immediately set another one, not because you're excited, but because the emptiness rushes in the moment you stop. Most people have been living in the second kind for years without realizing it, and they call it work ethic, they call it hustle, they call it doing what it takes, but what it actually is, and this is the part that's hard to admit, is a way of avoiding yourself. Because when you're constantly busy, constantly trying, constantly in motion, You never have to sit still long enough to ask the question that scares you most. What if who I am without all this effort is someone I don't know how to be? That's the real fear underneath the trying. Not that you'll fail. That you'll stop and discover you don't know who you are without the performance. And here's where it gets deeper. You've built an identity around effort, around being the one who handles it, the one who always has a plan, the one who pushes through. And that identity has been protecting you for a long time. It kept you safe when life was unpredictable. It gave you a sense of control when everything else felt chaotic. It became the story you told yourself about who you are. I'm the one who tries hard. I'm the one who doesn't quit. But now that identity is a cage, because you can't stop trying without feeling like you're losing yourself. The hustle isn't just something you do, it's who you think you are. And letting go of it feels like death. Not literal death. Identity death. The death of the version of you that earned love through performance, that earned safety through productivity, that earned worth through never ever stopping. But that version of you was built in survival, and you're not surviving anymore. You're living. Or at least, you're trying to. And the tools that kept you alive in one season are now suffocating you in the next. This is why slowing down feels so terrifying. It's not laziness you're afraid of. It's the silence. Because in the silence, there's no performance to hide behind. There's just you. And you haven't been alone with yourself. Really alone, without a task or a goal or a distraction, in a very long time. But here's what happens when you stop. Not give up. Stop forcing. First, nothing. And that nothing will scare you. Your brain will scream at you. It'll say you're wasting time. It'll say everyone else is getting ahead. It'll say this is the moment everything falls apart. Let it scream. That's just withdrawal. That's just a system that's been running on adrenaline and control for years finally being asked to power down. It doesn't know how yet, but it will learn. And then, slowly, something else starts to emerge. A quieter voice. One that's been buried under all the noise of your trying. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It just knows. It knows what you actually want, not what you think you should want. It knows which direction feels right, not which one looks most impressive. It knows which people are safe and which ones you've been performing for. You couldn't hear that voice before because you were too busy being productive, too busy optimizing, too busy trying to earn something that was already yours. And when that voice starts to come through, when you start following it, even in small ways, life begins to reorganize around you, not because you manifested it, not because the universe rewarded you for being spiritual, but because you finally stopped forcing yourself down a path that wasn't yours and started walking the one that was. Things start to click. Not all at once. Not with fireworks, but with a quiet rightness that you feel in your chest before you can explain it in your head. The conversation happens at the right time. The idea arrives fully formed. The door opens without you having to knock 17 times. And you realize this is what it was supposed to feel like all along. Not the grinding, not the forcing. This. Now here's the part that might make you uncomfortable. Some of the things you've been trying hardest to make work are the things you need to release. That goal you've been white-knuckling for years. Have you stopped to ask if you still even want it? Or are you chasing it because you told everyone you would? Because walking away would feel like failure? Because you've invested so much that quitting seems like a waste? That relationship you keep trying to fix with more effort, more communication, more compromise. What if the problem isn't that you're not trying hard enough? What if the problem is that it only works when you're trying? What if the version of it that requires your constant effort is the real version, and the one you're hoping for only exists in the future you keep reaching toward? That version of yourself you're grinding toward, leaner, sharper, more disciplined, more put together. What if you got there and still felt the same? What if the emptiness followed you into the better body, the bigger paycheck, the cleaner apartment? What if the thing you're actually missing has nothing to do with improvement and everything to do with acceptance? These are not comfortable questions, but they are the right ones, and you've been avoiding them by staying busy. Because busyness is the most socially acceptable way to run from yourself. Nobody questions it. Nobody worries about you. In fact, they praise you for it. You're such a hard worker. I don't know how you do it all. You never stop. And you smile, but the smile is tired, because you know the truth underneath the praise. You don't stop because you can't, and you can't because you're terrified of what happens when you do. Let me tell you what happens when you do. You find out that the world doesn't collapse, that the people who love you don't leave when you stop performing, that the work doesn't disappear when you stop obsessing over it, that your worth doesn't evaporate the moment you sit still. You find out that you are not your productivity, not your output, not your ability to endure discomfort without complaining. You're something underneath all of that, something quieter, something that's been waiting for you to slow down long enough to notice it. And when you do, when you finally meet that part of yourself, you wonder how you spent so many years ignoring it, how you poured all that energy into becoming someone impressive when the most magnetic version of you was the one that didn't need to try, the one that just was, calm, present, unforced. People feel the difference. They can't name it, but they feel it. You walk into a room without the frantic energy of someone who needs something from it, and people lean in. You speak without the desperation of someone performing, and your words land harder. You rest without guilt, and somehow you get more done in the hours you are working than you used to in an entire week of grinding. That's the paradox no one warns you about. The less you force, the more flows. The less you chase, the more arrives. The less you try to control, the more life cooperates, not because effort is bad, but because forced effort blocks the very thing it's reaching for. Think about water for a second. Water doesn't force itself through a landscape. It finds the lowest point and moves toward it naturally. It doesn't push through rock. It goes around it. Over time, it shapes canyons, carves valleys, moves mountains, not through aggression, through persistence without force, through showing up again and again without gripping the outcome. That's the kind of energy your life is asking for right now. Not less action, less force, not less care, less control. Not giving up on what matters, giving up the idea that everything has to be hard in order to be real. Because somewhere along the way you started believing that if it comes easy, you don't deserve it. That if it doesn't require suffering, it's not valuable. That pain is the price of progress, and comfort is the enemy. But what if that's the lie that's been keeping you stuck? What if the ease you've been resisting is actually the signal that you're finally on the right path? What if the thing that feels effortless isn't too good to be true? It's just what alignment actually feels like, and you've never let yourself stay in it long enough to find out? So here's what I want to leave you with. Not as a lesson, not as advice, just as something to sit with when it's quiet, and you feel that old urge to push rising up again. You have done enough. Not forever, just for today. You have tried hard enough, not because trying doesn't matter, but because the kind of trying you've been doing, the anxious, fear-driven, never-enough kind, was never going to take you where you want to go. It was only ever going to take you further from yourself. The next version of your life doesn't start with more effort. It starts with a different kind of effort. The kind that comes from rest, from trust, from the quiet decision to stop treating your life like a problem and start letting it be an experience. You don't have to figure it all out today. You don't have to earn the right to slow down. You don't have to prove to anyone, including yourself, that you deserve peace. You just have to stop, even for a moment, even just right now. Take one breath that isn't attached to a task. Let one moment exist without trying to make it productive, and notice what happens in that space. Notice how your shoulders drop. Notice how the tightness loosens, even a fraction. Notice how, for just a second, you're not running. That's the beginning. Not of giving up, of finally letting life in. If something in this hit a nerve you weren't expecting, good. That's not a sign something's wrong. That's a sign something's waking up. Drop the word exhale in the comments. Not for me, for you. A quiet reminder that you're allowed to stop holding your breath. And if you want more of this, no noise, no hype, just words that actually sit with you after you close the app. Subscribe. I'll be here. See you in the next one.